Hey, Las Vegas, Jesse Merrick here. At the end of today's episode, I've got a sponsored interview with TaskRabbit. Cody Gokin, who's the software engineer over there, is going to talk to me about the best ways to get your home ready before the desert heat really kicks in, and how Vegas residents are turning their skills into real income right in their own neighborhoods. Brought to you by TaskRabbit. The federal government just announced an emergency plan for Colorado River drought management, meaning lower water levels at Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam potentially producing 40% less electricity by this fall. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we sit down with John Ensminger, General Manager of the Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Las Vegas Valley Water District, to find out what this emergency plan means for the valley and how worried we should actually be. It's Monday, April 27th. I'm Jesse Merrick, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. All right, John, I did mention it in the intro here, but I want to start with the most recent cuts to water releases to Lake Mead from Lake Powell, which is upstream from us. Can you help contextualize what these cuts actually mean for Las Vegas and why this is all even happening in the first place?
In terms of what this means, it's pain for everybody across the Colorado River Basin. I mean, the water levels in Flaming Gorge are going to go down, and Blue Mesa, the recreation, and in Colorado and Wyoming will be impacted. The water levels in Lake Powell will go down, and for Lake Mead, it probably means the lowest water levels since Hoover Dam was built and Lake Mead was originally filled. So we'll probably get down to about elevation 1035 above sea level, which is about 5 feet lower than when they were finding bodies in barrels. So it's not a good situation.
Yeah, you don't want to find more bodies in barrels, that's for sure. We hear the number thrown out there about possibly producing 40% less electricity by this fall over at the Hoover Dam. Is that something that we should be worried about? Like, what's the impact to that on us here in Vegas?
Well, mostly the Southern Nevada Water Authority has most of the contracts for the Hoover Power, and it's about 12% of our portfolio. So we, might have to go out on the open market and replace that, but it will have far bigger impacts in California because they have most of the contracts for Hoover Power because they helped fund the construction of Hoover Dam.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, well, I guess good news for us, bad news for California. Fingers crossed it doesn't come up too long for that. But I am curious, like, what other consequences could lower water levels at Lake Mead have for us here in the valley, or just in general?
Well, I think it just proves the point that we have to continue with our conservation plans because we built the third intake, the low lake level pumping station. There's no immediate danger or anything to our ability to deliver water supply to all of our Southern Nevada residents. But it does make the point that in a warming climate, there's going to be less water in the future, and we need to keep on our conservation path.
Yeah, and you sound like you just said there, not very alarmed or anything like that. But I guess in terms of our water supply as a whole here in Southern Nevada, like what would you say is our short, mid, and long-term view, I guess, of where things are at in that regard?
Yeah, well, short term, the shortage determination for this year's already been made, and it reduces Nevada's legal allocation to 275,000 acre feet. Last year, we used 198,000 acre feet, so we actually have extra water this year from a legal perspective.
That's good
and
news.
In an intermediate term, I expect that to remain the case. But in a longer term, the federal government has an environmental document out on the streets that shows they think they have the authority to cut our water usage significantly more than that. So obviously we'll fight that, but if they ultimately prevail in their view of the law of the river, then the community has to be prepared to tighten our belt.
Why do they feel that they can actually cut our water usage more? And I guess, why would they want to?
Well, the law of the river is a very complicated beast, right? I mean, you're talking
Yeah.
about, water rights that go back to the 1800s in some cases. I always tell people, we have 19th century water law, 20th century infrastructure, and 21st century climate. And those three things don't fit together very well. So you ask a dozen lawyers, they'll give you a dozen different answers, but there's certainly federal authorities that arguably could require Nevada to reduce our water use.
And I guess like why would they come after us versus maybe others out there, other states?
I think their primary argument is because Western water law is premised upon first in time, first in right, right? And it dates
Hmm.
back to literally the 1840s when mining was first taking place in California. And if you were using your water, you were senior, and anybody downstream of you was junior. And because Nevada and Las Vegas specifically developed relatively late after a lot of development in Arizona, California, that's why they would think they have that right.
Well, we don't want to hear that out here, that's for sure. But I guess I'm curious to you. Do you think that first in law, first in right system still works over what, a century later here?
I think it's a premise for negotiation, but no, I don't think first in time, first in right is serving the West wide, not just the Colorado River, but everything east of the Mississippi. That's probably not a great system, but the past is prologue, right? So we have to deal with the fact that that's how most of our systems are set up and negotiate for flexibility from that premise.
And I guess the whole reason I think probably why we're in this situation is given the issues with snowpack, this year in general. I mean, I'm an avid snowboarder, so that one hit home for me big time. And also, too, we had that heat wave in March as well that didn't help our cases as well. So I'm just curious, like, how much of that is to blame for some of these issues? And obviously, those things were bad for Colorado River. So, like, I guess, do we have a point of comparison to explain how bad it is because of those things?
2002 was the driest year in the recorded history of the river, and we
Hmm.
got about 25% of normal inflow into Lake Powell. The most recent projections for this year are 14%. So it is
Wow.
extremely dire. It's not just the amount of snow that falls, but as you said in March, we had the climate scientists call it a heat dome, sit on top of the Rocky Mountains, and what snow there was sublimated, which means it went directly from solid form to gaseous form. It never liquefied. It didn't rehydrate the soils. It didn't get into the streams and creeks. So it's this double whammy of less precipitation. And then when you do get precipitation, the higher temperatures soaking it back up into the atmosphere.
Do we think that climate change, might cause more of these kind of issues or extreme situations that we're kind of in right now?
Well, I've talked to, spent a lot of time with some of the best climate scientists in the world, people far more qualified than I am to talk about the actual science. And they say you need to be prepared for both ends. You could face a 50-year mega drought, or you could face mega floods, any particular year. If you see a super wet year, you could have an atmospheric river park itself over the Rocky Mountains, and you get a 1982, 1983 kind of scenario where the snowpack is tremendous. And we've seen that in the last 25 years. 2011 was the fourth wettest year in the history of the river. 2013 was a tremendously wet water year. So this is not a linear equation. This is something where you have to be absolutely prepared for things to be dry, but you can't automatically assume that it's just going to follow a straight line down.
Yeah, and I understand they're expecting, a pretty big like El Nino, right, to be coming in next year. That obviously doesn't help us this year, but I guess like do we overlook how much, rainfall actually helps? Like the most important thing in all of this does seem to be the snowpack each and every year.
It's absolutely the snow, even summer rain, because uh, coming out of a year like this, even if you'd guaranteed me that the snowpack next year would be 130% of normal, the first thing I would say to you is 30 or 40% of that is going to go to rehydrating the soils. The antecedent soil conditions are a huge driver to how much of that water is actually going to melt and get back into the river system. And then again, what are the spring temperatures going to look like? So, yeah, I sincerely hope, even pray for an extremely wet winter next year. But we owe a debt from this year that a wet year is going to have to repay before we can accrue any revenues, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Like you said, I'm also going to be praying for more snow. I want more time up on the mountain selfishly. This year obviously didn't get too much of it. So hoping more of it does come. So I guess as we kind of move on and talk more so wholesale of all those things adding up to the situation that we're in, it relates back, to all the Colorado River states, blowing past that February deadline to agree to new cuts. You've been negotiating for Nevada's Colorado River water for over a decade. I guess how would you describe where things are at right now in terms of those negotiations?
They're extremely tense when you have a finite resource that's shrinking and 40 million people reliant upon it and a lot of politics involved. It's a tense situation. But I do think the federal government has come out with what I consider a workable operations plan for 2026. Nevada put out a 26-27 plan a couple of weeks ago, and I think we're going to be able to forge a 26 through 28, maybe 29 kind of operations plan to give us the space to try to come up with a longer term plan. But what I tell people all the time is one set of humans or another is going to make this decision. If it's not
Mm-hmm.
the 7 governors representatives, then maybe it's Congress, maybe it's guys and gals in black robes, but somebody decides how much water comes out of dams. That's just physics.
Yeah, and just again, there's like you noted, there's so much division, amongst the 7 states, the upper and lower basin. Why exactly is there so much friction between these two divisions of the river?
There's this much division because everybody has their own view of the law. Everybody answers to elected officials that want to make their constituencies happy. And frankly, Americans are not that well equipped to make hard decisions and make mutual sacrifices for the common good.
Interesting. And I know, like through like reading up before this episode and everything, I saw that the lower basin uses a lot more water than the upper basin historically, but that doesn't include us here in Nevada. It seems like mostly California and Arizona are the ones that are using much more disproportionately. Is that true?
California and Arizona, and for that matter, the country of Mexico,
Mm,
use quite a bit more water than Nevada. Uh, but you also have 19 million people from Santa
yeah,
Barbara to San Diego. We have 2.5 million people here.
that's
You've
fair.
got 6 million people in Maricopa County, and you have a tremendous amount of agricultural production in Southern California and Southern Arizona. If you ate a salad this winter, that lettuce came from Yuma, Arizona. It's 90% of the lettuce production in the world. So unless you're ready to offshore our food production, you have to take into account these competing, demands for how we use our water.
This year, TEDx Las Vegas 2026 is exploring the theme of past, present, possible, looking at where we've been, where we are, and what's next. The 2-day immersive experience includes tours, panels, experiences, and of course, main stage talks with 19 speakers and performers. Located in beautiful downtown Las Vegas at the AC Hotel and Element Symphony Park, this year's speakers include leaders across art, science, business, and culture as well, giving us not just talks, but ideas designed to shift your perspective. These talks are designed as a fully immersive experience that goes beyond the stage, including art, community activations, and curated programming throughout the footprint. This event is coming soon and tickets are limited, so use the code JOINUS, that's JOINUS, for $25 off. TEDx Las Vegas 2026, past, present, possible, May 2nd and May 3rd in downtown Las Vegas. Get your tickets now at TEDxLasVegas.org. I guess, is there anything that those other states can take from us? Have they been, open to what we've done here in Nevada? Because obviously it seems like we've been a pretty good partner in this whole thing and held up our end of the bargain in terms of conserving.
There's always more that everybody can do everywhere, and I do believe Las Vegas, Southern Nevada is the world leader in urban water conservation.
Hmm.
And if I were, water czar for the entire basin, would I make Denver and Salt Lake City and Los Angeles and Phoenix adopt every single thing we've done? Yes, I would. But I don't have that scepter. So you have to kind of try to lead by example and talk them into it. But it's
Hmm.
not as if they haven't done anything. The Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which again is Santa Barbara to San Diego, a big place, there's 54 local jurisdictions, and some of them have done tremendous amounts of water conservation, and some of them have done absolutely nothing. So
Hmm.
it's always dangerous to paint with too broad of a brush when you're talking about water conservation, because there's a lot of people doing good things out there, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
people pretending that this crisis doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, you definitely can't pretend that it doesn't exist. So I guess I'm curious, like, what are the things that we have done so successfully that you would point to and say, hey, if there's a way they can adopt this, then it's going to make a real big difference?
I would say the number one thing is our Water Smart Landscape program, right? We've taken out enough grass here in the Las Vegas Valley to lay an 18-inch wide piece of sod around the circumference of the globe at the equator, and started our second lap.
That's a
Uh,
lot.
that's a lot of grass, and so adopting the culture of living in the desert. We're in the Mojaves, Phoenix is in the Sonora, but we need to realize this isn't Kentucky, right? There's a lot of people that move here from the Midwest and Northeast, and they need to realize this is the desert, and this is how we're going to have to adapt to real life in the 21st century in the desert.
Why is it that grass is so bad for water usage? Like, why was that something that we here in Nevada have zeroed in on, and why has it been so impactful?
Just because it's so water intensive. I mean, 1 square foot of grass consumes about 75 gallons of water per year.
Jeez.
And 1 square foot of xeriscape native landscaping consumes 16 to 17 gallons per acre foot. So you do the math, and look, we haven't gone after parks and schools and
Hmm.
people's backyards. I live in Summerlin, and for years I drove down the Summerlin Parkway, and there's sprinklers going at 4 in the afternoon, watering grass that the only person who ever walked on it is the person mowing it. And it's like, that's just not a luxury we can afford.
Yeah, and that's a really good way to put it. So I guess that begs the question of why other areas around the country are so reluctant to give up those, I'll say the term useless grass areas, even though I'm a homeowner that loves, having a great front lawn and all that stuff.
Because they haven't had to yet. Because, when the Colorado River Compact was negotiated, Nevada, our forefathers had the foresight to secure us 1.8% of the legal entitlement to the Colorado River. And if we wanted to continue to diversify our economy and accommodate the kind of population growth that we've seen here over the last several decades, we had to get extremely efficient. So we've led the way, and we've done things that, frankly, eventually everybody else is going to have to do too. We're first, but we're not the last.
Hmm. And I guess have there been any like unintended consequences by removing all that grass? Like obviously, like trees, come to mind first. Like, have there been issues with that? Is that maybe something other areas are pointing to, saying, "Well, hey, this is the mal effect of pulling the grass out of there."
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, there's ongoing litigation and controversy over that. But what our arborists tell us is you can absolutely maintain certain species of trees, and I've seen it in Summerlin. A lot of grasses come out of Summerlin, and they put in concentric drip irrigation around the base of the trees, and
Mm-hmm.
you know 5, 10 years later, the trees are doing just fine. But there's certain species of trees, Afghan pines. We estimate no matter how much you water an Afghan pine in Las Vegas, it's probably going to be dead by 2035. And there's probably
Yeah.
100,000 of those in the valley. The same for plums, the same for ash. There were just species of trees that were planted here that no matter how much you water them, are not going to make it by the time we have the temperatures we're projected to have in 2035. It's a heat thing, it's a disease thing. We're getting beetles in the valley for the first time. So people want to just point at the grass, but I walk my dogs at a park by my house every day. There's a dead pine tree they just pulled out that's literally on the sideline of a football field. I mean, it has grass in 20 yards of every direction. And it died. And that's in Summerlin at an elevation of 3,200 feet, not on the east side at 2,200 feet. So there's a lot of reasons trees die. They're mortal beings just like human beings are.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I guess just for the people that are annoyed by the conservation efforts that have gone on so far, or maybe the people that don't like turf instead of grass, like what would you say to them to kind of spur them to jump on board and do their part?
I would say everybody has to do something so that we all have enough. I know there's lots of longtime residents, but the the city we've built, the economy we've built, the quality of life that we've built requires shared sacrifice. And especially if you've moved here since, say, 1999, you moved here because somebody else conserved water.
Hmm. And that's the thing I think that's important to point out too in regards to the other states and everything. Like the question to you, I guess, would be how much have you guys been pushing home the fact of look at the growth that we've had here in Southern Nevada, particularly in the Las Vegas area, amidst being one of the more efficient, areas in the world, like you noted.
Yeah, well, the other states are probably tired of hearing from me about
Keep up the good fight.
what we have done. But trust me, all 6 states, the federal government, I've testified as to our conservation achievements in front of both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. They all hear it when I land in Denver and Albuquerque and there's wall-to-wall turf around their airports, and the first thing I do when I walk in the negotiation room is chastise them for useless grass and tell them the only person who walks on that grass is the guy who mows it. There's no kids playing on the grass outside the airport. So yeah, we're out there fighting the good fight and letting people know, but again, our authority's limited to how much we can influence other states.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I guess like for me too, I'm curious. Like, is there any discussion? And feel free to be like, no, that's crazy. But like for us to join the Upper Basin, because it seems like our water usage is much more in line with them rather than California and Arizona. And I feel like we're getting lumped in with them and possibly getting screwed in the process by it.
Well, for years, I have on occasion referred to Nevada as the Middle Basin.
Ah, there you
uh,
go.
because I think both Arizona and California and the 4 upper division states, have okay points, but I also think all 6 of them could be doing a lot more. And I don't think any of the 6 of them have done nearly as much as we have, but we have tried to play that kind of middle ground mediator position, within the river negotiations on occasion.
So we're Switzerland, is essentially what you're telling me.
Well, Switzerland with elite offensive capabilities.
There you go. I like that. That's a great way to put it. So I guess like, okay, if we've got elite offensive abilities, I'm a guy with a football background here. How do we, get the ball over the goal line in terms of getting the other states to jump on board and doing, kind of what we have done and really getting them to jump on board with what we've implemented here?
Well, I think the number one thing is to continue to lead by example, but it's also being willing to join coalitions. There's quite a bit of Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law money still sitting in the federal government that could be deployed to help smooth out some of these conservation measures across the basin, in 26 and 27. So, just being a good partner, but also being viewed as a bit of a porcupine that it's
Hmm.
not really worth messing with us because we only have 1.8% of the river. So we have 2 senators and billions of dollars. So don't mess with us and we'll be a good partner.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fair. And you mentioned it earlier that the discussions are ongoing. People are getting very defensive, all that stuff. It sounds like people are lawyering up as well. So I guess where does this go next? Like, if not through the state negotiators, then Congress or in the Supreme Court? Like, how far does this thing end up going, you think?
Well, I guess I would tell you, I don't know if you have kids or not, but for any of your listeners that have young children, um, tell them to be a water lawyer because there's going to be plenty of work for decades to come. This isn't something that's going to be resolved.
Enrollment's
Even
about to be sky high after this.
yeah, it's well, look, I firmly believe we're going to come up with a 3 to 4 year operating plan and keep the car out of the ditch. But again, if you believe the best climate scientists in the world, the Colorado River is going to have about a third less water in it by mid-century than it did in the 20th century. And literally, civilization is going to have to adapt to that. How we grow our food, how we live our lives, how many front lawns you get to mow. It's going to be a multi-decadal adaptation.
Yeah. So, like you said, I guess cautiously optimistic, but hope that more folks get on board with what we're doing here today. Man, thank you so much for the time. This has been a lot of fun and I think very insightful.
Well, again, regular listeners, so really appreciate being invited on. I hope I gave hope along with some truth of the seriousness of the situation, because it's an extremely serious situation. Human beings have the ability to adapt to this. We just need to not be selfish.
Hey there, Jesse here with Cody Gokin, a software engineer at TaskRabbit. Cody, welcome to CityCast Las Vegas. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, look, TaskRabbit is this awesome app, man, where you can actually find a neighbor essentially to come in and help you out with a household task or to sign up to be that neighbor as well. So, Cody, for anyone out there who hasn't actually used the app yet, what are some of the go to tasks that people in Las Vegas can actually use it for?
Furniture assembly and TV mounting are huge,
Mm.
especially with so much new development that's been happening here in Las Vegas. But we also handle cleaning, moving assistance, and general home repairs. The goal is ease and quality. You browse
hmm
local profiles, you see real reviews from other Vegas residents, and then you pick the person that fits your budget and schedule.
Yeah, that sounds pretty straightforward, and obviously you can see why it's kind of taken off. Like, obviously, TaskRabbit's been a staple here in Las Vegas for a while now, and you actually live in Vegas as well, so you've actually been able to see the platform kind of grow from the ground up here, huh?
Yeah, it's grown a lot. It started as a pretty simple idea 16 years ago, and now
Mm.
it's something people here rely on day to day, whether it's from work or just getting help with something around the house. We've helped Las Vegas residents complete over 40,000 tasks, and it's
Wow.
across the whole valley from Summerlin to Henderson. I also have a few friends here who are taskers, and they stay pretty busy, so you can really see the demand on both sides.
Yeah, 40,000 tasks. I mean, I'm sure people are doing some big time work there. That's for sure. Let's talk about the people, though, that are actually the ones doing that work. How does TaskRabbit actually support local workers here in the Valley?
This is a huge part of our mission. We aren't just a service, we're an engine for micro entrepreneurs. On average, taskers in Las Vegas earn 43 per hour. It's a
Wow.
fantastic way to build a business or make some extra money on the side. Taskers are their own bosses. They set their own rates, schedules, and work areas. Most importantly, they take home 100% of their hourly rate and 100% of their tips.
So over $40 an hour, that's a pretty darn good side hustle. And like you said, being your own
Yeah.
boss, I mean, you really can't beat that. So I love CityCast. I might have to think about jumping on TaskRabbit. For anybody else out there that's interested in signing up to be a tasker today, what do they need to know?
Well, if you're over 18 and you have skills such as cleaning, painting, mounting, or general handyman work, you can sign up. A lot of the logistics are handled for you, so you can focus on the jobs and getting paid. And we also take safety seriously, so every tasker undergoes a multi-step screening process, including identity verification, background checks, so people feel comfortable using the platform.
Yeah, no, definitely. The comfort is king for sure on that. You know, if you have somebody come into your house to do something like that, so you guys doing the good work behind the scenes to make sure you got the right people coming over. And obviously, too, like this is timely because I think everyone in Vegas is really excited for spring. You know, obviously that's our reprieve before the summer heat really starts to hit us here. And part of that process is spring cleaning. Like nobody likes doing that themselves, myself included. Personally, I start to go through like my closet and look around the house for all the things that I do and don't need, figure out what I should keep, what I should donate, different things like that. But what are some of the other household tasks that people should be thinking about as we kind of get prepped for spring and look ahead to summer?
Spring is really when we start to prepare for the heat. A
Yeah.
lot of people focus on things like yard work, clearing out the debris from the winter winds, and getting things around the house in order. It's also a good time to take care of the indoor stuff like organizing, cleaning, small repairs before the temperature really starts to climb here.
Yeah, no, that's definitely big. We all know about the winds too. My neighborhood got destroyed by them. They've got palm fronds everywhere. You can have somebody on TaskRabbit come help you out. Cody, thank you so much. This was a fun conversation. We appreciate you being here. For any guys out there that are listening, if you're in Las Vegas and you need a hand around the house or you want to start earning as a tasker yourself, head to taskrabbit.com. We'll actually have the link down in the show notes to make it really easy for you. And as always, thank you so much for listening to CityCast Las Vegas. That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our free morning newsletter as well. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, take care.